Hi guys, welcome back. My name is Marley and this is my channel, Marley Reads a Lot. Today, as you can see from the title, I'm going to be filming my monthly wrap up for the month of March where I talk about all the books I read this month. Hopefully my camera angle is straighter than in my last video. It was very crooked, but I'm getting used to this new setup, you know? Anyways, this month I actually read 7 books. I feel pretty good about that. A few of them were fantasies, a few were thrillers, so let's just get into it. As always, I'm going to be talking about the books in the order of my least favorite to my most favorite, so definitely stick around to see what my favorite book of the month was. Let's start off with my lowest rated book. So this month I continued on with the Grishaverse series, and the next book that I had to read was Crooked Kingdom. So this was the second book in the Six of Crows duology portion of the Grishaverse. I ended up giving it 3 out of 5 stars, which is actually my lowest rated Grishaverse book. So if you don't know, these are part of a YA fantasy series that takes place in this like magical world where these things called Grisha, and basically they're magical people, and there are different types of Grisha that can do different sort of things and manipulate different types of powers basically. And in this duology we're following a group of 6 different characters. Not all of them are Grisha, spoiler alert, only some, and they are all going on this heist together. They all have different motivations, they all have different like traumatic pasts that you're learning about throughout the series, but they go on this big demanding heist, and then the second book is sort of like the fallout of that. I was pretty excited going into this because I enjoyed Six of Crows. I gave it 4 to 5 stars. I didn't love it as much as a lot of people, but I still enjoyed it, and I was a fan of all of the characters and all of the relationships. There's like 3 different main ships that are all really cute and you know can't help rooting for. So I was excited going into the second one because I'm like, okay, we already have the characters established, so it should be a even better read than the first one. However, obviously it was not for me. I started out and I was excited because I'm like, wow, there's more going on than just one heist. But it turned out to be too much going on in this. I felt like, whereas the plot in Six of Crows was so linear of like the one heist, this one was all over the place with a bunch of different action points going on. I just found it to be too much. It was so long ago that I read it now, but I just remember not enjoying it as much, sorry, I should say. There's also a death in this, which I think is pretty well known, and I was scared for it because I'm like, wow, it's gonna be one of my favorite characters. I'm gonna be so sad. I felt like basically nothing about over the death, which is not a good sign when one of your main characters dies. Like, you should probably make it be a very like moving scene. I did really enjoy Wylan and Jesper moments. We got more of those in here. Yeah, the Leigh Bardugo series are just not living up to the hype for me. Still a very like average read, I guess, but I just felt like it was dragging on for me, and that's all I'll say about this one. I can't really remember what else I want to say. So that brings us to our first thriller book that I want to talk about, and that is Final Girls by Riley Sager. And this was a book I also gave 3 stars to. Riley Sager is a very hyped thriller author. I have been making my way through their books, and Final Girls is actually his first book, which makes sense why it was the worst one. What it is about is this girl who was crowned a final girl. So basically, when she was in college, her and her friends were at this cabin in the woods, and all of her friends got slaughtered except for her. So she was dubbed the final girl because she survived, and then there are 2 other final girls that had their own sort of massacres, decades in the past, and so the 3 of them are known as the 3 final girls. How many times am I gonna say final girls? Our main character, I'm forgetting her name, basically gotten on with her life and everything, but she does not remember the events that happened. It was too like traumatic for her or whatever, so she doesn't remember. So there's a bit of a mystery to that. It's like, why, like what happened there? And then when one of the other final girls ends up dead, there's some like suspicion surrounding that. Then the other final girl like shows up and she's acting suspicious, and you know, it's a thriller. There's a lot of suspicious things happening. I will say though, it just did not live up to the hype of Riley Sager's other books. I feel like the mystery was just not as good. The twists were not quite as good either, and same with the characters. So this was definitely a very average read for me, but I'm looking forward to getting to Riley's 4th book that I haven't read yet, which is not Home Before Dark and not Lock Every Door, whatever the other one is. But yeah, this one just like wasn't his best work. So the next book we have is King of Scars by Leigh Bardugo, going back to the Grishaverse. I gave this one 4 stars, so it did go back to being on par with the other Grisha books, which I rated all 4 stars. So this one takes place after Crooked Kingdom, and we are sort of going back to following some of our original characters from the Shadow and Bone series and one of our characters from Six of Crows. So it's hard to talk about because I don't want to spoil, like I don't want to spoil who lives and who dies and stuff like that in those other series, but I will say this follows some of my favorite characters from those 2 series. So I was very excited to get into this one, and it didn't disappoint. I do feel like Leigh Bardugo's writing was pretty decent in this one. The plot wasn't too driving, it wasn't too heavy. I think the plot could have been, actually no, because I think when the plot's there's too much of it, I don't like it, like in Crooked Kingdom. So it was probably a good balance of plot and characters. Actually, the romance, I am enjoying the main romance, but I kind of wanted more from it, which I'm sure we'll get in the second book, which is now out, but I'm waiting to get it in paperback because I have the whole series in paperback, so not sure when I'll read that. Yeah, did like the direction that this one took. I thought it had a good plot twist at the end that I'm really excited about. The only thing is I didn't like the character POVs from a certain character. I'll just say from Isaac, if you guys have read it. I didn't really care for his POVs as much, but was living for all the other ones. Yeah, not sure what else to say to not say spoilers. Another book that I read this month and gave 4 stars to was One by One by Ruth Ware. I should mention I did a reading blog where I read 3 popular thrillers, so I'll definitely link that video above and below. If you guys haven't heard about this book, I'll just say we are following this tech company that goes on this sort of company retreat to a skiing resort. While they're there, some of their employees end up dying or going missing. They get snowed in, the Wi-Fi's not working, the power's out. Great setting. I loved the isolation setting and like the group of like people who know each other but like have issues with each other, and just trying to figure out who is the killer and like why are they killing these people. Not sure if I explained that great. I thought this book was really great. It was really, really entertaining, very like fast-paced, easy to get through type of thriller. The only thing is I would say the ending is not quite as good as the first part of the book. You kind of find out the major twist a little bit early on in the book, and I just felt like it really dragged after that, so that's why it had to, you know, lose a star. The twists definitely could have been better. Like, this is not the best twisty book you've ever read, but as I said, it was super, super entertaining and like had the fast pace, like a bunch of deaths, stuff like that happening. So if that sounds good to you, I would definitely recommend it. Another book I read for that vlog and also gave 4 stars to was The Good Daughter by Karin. So I would say her more popular book is Pretty Girls. This is also another very, very good book by her. We are following these 2 sisters, and at the beginning we see this flashback to a very traumatic thing that happened to them and their family. Definite trigger warnings for violence and sexual assault before you read this, but basically it ends up with their mother dying, and then we flash forward 28 years when they are full-grown adults now. We see where they're at in their lives, and one of the characters ends up getting caught up in this sort of crime situation that happens. It's a school shooting, and one of our characters is there and gets involved. It's definitely very much like a lawyer, like a law type of thriller, as our 2 main characters are lawyers following the footsteps of their father with the current day crime. You know, there's a lot of lawyer speak trying to defend the client, like stuff like that. So if you don't like lawyer things, then this book is probably not for you. But if you're into that, check this out. It's also got a lot of character development, and it's a very like character driven story too. So I would recommend this if you like those elements. Not too twisty until the very end of the book. It's not really like Pretty Girls where there's ones like happening throughout. So just keep that in mind as well, but definitely would recommend this. If you want more of my thoughts, check out that blog that I mentioned earlier, but it's pretty good. I will also warn that they're very, very long chapters, and it's a pretty long book as well, so be warned about that. It might take you a while to get through it because of that, but it's definitely worth it because it's a great book. Then we have Ruth Ware returning with The Turn of the Key. So if you guys don't know, this is based off The Turn of the Screw. There's a lot of different adaptations of that story that I've seen. seen. Like, if you guys don't know, Bly Manor, I believe, is also based off that. And the premise is essentially that there is a woman, a young woman, that becomes the nanny or the au pair for this family that has multiple children. In this book, it is 4 daughters that our main character is going to be nannying and taking care of. Then some sort of weird things start going on with the house. So again, in this adaptation, it is more of a smart house. It takes place in current day. Parents of the daughters are very techie. So the house, you know, has all these like tech elements to it that can be creepy. We have the mystery of our main character, who is sort of suspicious for like what brought her to this place in her life. Why is she being sketchy? And then we have an element of like ghosts and haunting, as well as the one daughter is talking about how there's a ghost at the house and they don't want her there, and she's hearing weird noises and weird things are happening. So it's a really good thriller. I think I give it 4.5 stars. Ruth Ware, I think, is really good at having like a really cool setting for her thrillers and having a really good setup. Again, I would say the ending and like the end plot twist was like not the most amazing plot twist I've ever seen, but I did still like it. And I read this one very quickly as well. It was a buddy read with Serena, and it was really fun doing my first buddy read with a thriller book, because I feel like there was a lot to talk about and like speculate about. I definitely was like having my theories throughout. I hope you can't hear that truck out there. But anyways, I really adored this book, so that's why it was my second favorite of the month, and I would highly recommend. Might check out more Ruth Ware books after reading 2 of hers and enjoying them both. And then we get to my favorite book of the month, which probably will not be surprising to anyone on my channel. Let's pull it out. Chain of Iron by Cassandra Clare, which I did a whole reading vlog for and review for on my channel that I'll definitely link as well. It is full of spoilers, and I didn't even do a spoiler-free section, so like be aware of that. But anyways, if you guys don't know, this is the second book in the Last Hour series in Cassandra Clare's Shadowhunter Chronicles. So we are in the turn of the century, and we are following a few of our famous Shadowhunter families, like the Herondales, the Carstairs, the Lightwoods, etc. If you don't know, it is basically about the children of the Infernal Devices characters. So that's really cool. Don't want to spoil the second book, obviously, but in the first book, essentially, there hasn't been very much demonic activity for like years. Like, our main characters have all kind of grown up living like a normal life, because like there haven't been that many demons. Demons start appearing. They can somehow appear in like the sunlight. Crazy stuff like that is happening. Also, God, I don't even know how to describe this. Also, we have a lot of shipping. We have a lot of relationships between the different characters, and that is a really big point of this series. As a lot of people have been talking about lately, this series isn't super plot heavy, and the plot is not like the best part of it. It's definitely the characters and the relationships. So if you like those types of books, then definitely read these ones, because you will get so invested. If you haven't read any Shadowhunter books before though, definitely read the Infernal Devices before these at least. But obviously I would recommend reading all of them before, but like at least read the Infernal Devices. I'll mention my ship is Cordelia and Matthew. I mentioned this a million times in my vlog, and I've been very happy to see that there are a lot of other Matthew and Cordelia shippers out there. I'm glad that we can all suffer through this together, but we definitely got some good moments with them in this book, and I'll just say I'm really excited for the next book. If you know, you know, but I think we're definitely gonna get some good stuff in the next one. Yeah, basically this was 5 out of 5 if you didn't know. Like, this is such a great book. I loved it, and go check out my reading vlog for more of my thoughts. So that wraps it up. Those are the 7 books that I read this month. Hopefully you liked hearing a little bit about each of them. Let me know if you read any of these books down in the comments. Give me a like, and please subscribe. I'm trying to hit 200 subscribers, and it would make me really happy if I reach that. Stay tuned for more videos coming up in April. I'm sure you don't want to miss them. And until then, I hope you guys are doing well. Bye. Why am I so awkward?